Hello, everyone. This is me, Sarah Ma'am, and today's session is going to be about how to design a lesson plan and how to do SMART objectives. First of all, for those who haven't met me before and would like to know more about me, my name is Sarah Ma'am. I'm an English teacher and a coordinator. I have been teaching for almost 16 years. I have taught in so many different countries like Qatar, Egypt, Saudi Arabia, Sri Lanka, and I have taught a large number of students from all around the globe. And it's really a pleasure to be sharing with you some of the knowledge and some info about teaching because I'm really very passionate and I'm so, teaching based. So it's going to be really a pleasure to share with you some of these info, especially about lesson planning. Um, I have got a teacher trainer professional development program from Arizona State University, and I have a certificate in primary English language teaching from British Council in Qatar. I have got an intensive teaching training program from the Ministry of Education in Qatar, and I have a leadership program from Sri Lanka. I am a Classera certified EdTech teacher, which means that I'm using and implementing technology in my classrooms, and it's really nice to meet all of you. First of all, uh, that's an icebreaker activity for whoever is watching me. You can just take a minute or 2 minutes to think about some adjectives to describe yourself based on your initials and first letters of your name. As for me, my name is Sarah, so for S, I choose sociable, A, I choose ambitious, R, responsible, A, active, and H, helpful. Okay, before talking about a lesson plan, let's all have a minute and have some seconds to think about the meaning of a lesson plan. What's a lesson plan? Why do a teacher or, or why do teachers need to lesson plan? So a lesson plan is a document in teacher's hand that enables you to arrange your ideas, write your ideas on paper, set down your target, your aim. What are you expecting from the students to be able to do by the end of the lesson? What do you expect from them to do, and how will you achieve this? So actually, lesson planning is something very important because it prepares you as a teacher to, before you enter the class, to the lesson that you're going to teach, and it makes you have a clear vision about your aims, about your goals. What do you really need from your student by the end of the class? Uh, when you are lesson planning, you need to do, or you need to ask yourself the following questions. The first one is, what do I want to my students to learn? And what are the learning and teaching activities I will use to make this target clear or to achieve my goals? How will I check for understanding? So these questions are really very important, and it's really very important to have answers about them. If you answer, or if you have a look at the first question, the answer will be actually the objectives of your lesson, because what do you want your students to learn? This actually sums up the objective of your lesson. And the second question, the answer of it will be the activities, the practice activities, maybe formative assessment, maybe the controlled practice, or any kind of activity you're going to implement with your students to achieve these objectives. And checking for understanding is also the CCQs or the question concept check questions you're going to do, or the process you're going to go through to achieve your goal. Just imagine yourself, you enter the class without lesson planning. What would happen? It's gonna be embarrassing if someone entered the class to attend for you and you do not have a lesson plan with you, or you do not have a clear idea about what you're going to teach. Sometimes a lesson plan is not just a document. Maybe you're lesson planning in points or in steps, but you know what you're going to do and how to achieve this goal. But if you do not know nothing about what you're going to do, what you're going to teach your students, it will be embarrassing if your supervisor or if your director attends to you and you are not ready. The second option, or the second possible thing that may happen, is your students, maybe they are going to ask you questions you are not ready with, or maybe they will not get what you are teaching them, and you will not reach the objective you are looking for or you are targeting. All of us, while lesson planning, we face a lot of challenges. Think about yourself when you are lesson planning. What are the challenges you faced during making a lesson plan or designing a lesson plan? All of us are facing such challenges. Like, for example, we cannot set a clear time for each objective or each practice or each maybe activity. So time management may be an obstacle because many teachers cannot control it and cannot set clear and specific time for each objective. Number two is the effort exerted in lesson planning. Nobody can deny that lesson planning is a hard job. It's not easy. No one can say that. And it consumes a lot of time from the teacher's life. But teaching is lesson planning. So if you are a teacher and you choose to be a teacher, so you should put in mind that you will dedicate a lot of your time, your social life, your personal life to teaching. That's how teaching goes. So if it's not suitable for you, you wouldn't fit to be a teacher actually. Number three is using technology, which is something easy, also not easy for some of the teachers, because either they are not aware of how to use technology, or they do not know many tools that enable them to implement technology inside the classrooms. Number four is mentioning details. Some people are not quite aware of how to mention clear details, or how to improvise, how to talk more and explain more about their objective. Maybe because of poor information or lack of knowledge. And in both cases, it's the job of the school or the job of the supervisor to provide your team with the essentials that enable them to have wider knowledge about teaching and their area of specialty. Number five, ideas and activities. And again, this is the job of the supervisor and the academic director of the school. They have to provide you with more ideas, more activities. They have to make their team up to date with the latest in education. And also the teacher herself or himself, they have a role on educating themselves. You need to dedicate part of your life on how to read daily, maybe, or monthly or weekly about something related to your job. Teaching is like medicine, by the way. If the doctor is not up to date to the new medicine or the new researches, he will not be able to continue in his job. Likewise, teaching, if you are not up to date, if you are not following what's going around you, if you are not coping with the new technology and the new strategies to deal with your students, you will not be able to go on and to improve yourself and to develop yourself in this career. Number 6 is differentiation, which is something really important because uh, every teacher should understand that you will never have a perfect class. Classes are always differentiated. There are so many different levels, different cultural backgrounds, students coming from different homes, from different um, abilities, different skills, and your role as a teacher is to respect this. So every student is a unique individual, and you have to deal with them based on that fact. Not all of them are going to be perfect. So your lesson must include something for these special abilities. The first thing when you are lesson planning is to set your goals clear. And actually, the goals or the objectives should meet the four or these 5 letters in front of us. The objectives must be SMART objectives. And what does SMART mean? These are initials for some adjectives. S stands for specific. So your objective shouldn't be too open to the extent that you cannot reach it or you cannot achieve it. Measurable, M is for measurable, which means that you can measure it by the end of the class. Do not use a verb in your objective like no, because no is very wide. You cannot measure how well they know or whether they know that or not. Number 3, achievable, something you can achieve within a certain time frame. So do not make or set an objective which will take really long time from you and you cannot achieve it by the end of the class. So this is not a class objective, or it's not an objective that's suitable for one period session. Relevant, it should be connected to your lesson, and it should be aligned with your values, aligned with your course book, something not away from the curriculum of the student. The last one is time-based, which means realistic, ambitious, in date to clarify task priorities and increase motivation. So you should be increasing the motivation of your students, pushing them to do more and work more and be more energetic with you. Why do I need to set objectives? Just imagine yourself, you are teaching something without knowing why do you teach that. My kids always ask me, why do you teach us such lesson, or what I'm gonna gain from this lesson, what I will do after knowing this info. So if you do not have an answer for this question, they will not be convinced and they will not listen to you, and the session will be just a waste of time. So actually setting objectives is something really essential, and it's a sign of a successful classroom. If you do not have clear idea about your objectives, this means that your class is not successful. Okay. How will my supervisor or how will the school admin help me in that? As a teacher has a lot to do, has countless things to be done. So actually, the supervisor must be helping in that by dividing the task within the grade level. So it wouldn't be so much new on one person. One person is only preparing every week, or that teacher is the only one who does everything every week. she will not be able to continue. This should be divided within the grade level teachers. The grade level teachers should meet weekly and discuss about the upcoming lessons for the next week. They should share ideas and exchange ideas on how to implement such lesson or how to implement such activity. Maybe by exchanging their ideas, this will enlarge and widen the ideas of the one who's going to plan. So it will not be a one lady task or one man show. It will be the whole team's responsibility to be sharing in the lesson planning. So weekly meetings are really very important. Every grade level teachers, grade 1 teachers, 2 or 3, they sit together weekly to know what they are going to teach next week. Everyone will share their opinion. They will share their activities. Maybe they will share previous knowledge, or maybe they have background. They have taught this before and it was successful in their classroom. So if they share together, this will widen the vision or the view of the one who's going to plan it, and will make it more easier for her to plan for the team. Number 3, we can just use ready-made lesson plans, but you must check carefully and adapt it according to your students' needs, because not everything on the internet is really, you know, ready for everyone to be used. No, sometimes there are some mistakes, sometimes there are some typos. So do not depend on technology without revising and double checking what's mentioned in this PPT. Activities is something really important to be done within your students, within the classroom environment, because it really spices up your classroom. It makes your students more motivated to participate and to share and to respond to you. Students feel like they are doing something, they are not bored, they are not just sitting in front of the board and writing or listening all the time. So when you are designing a lesson plan, it's really important to add activities on every stage of the lesson. Right now, I'm going to show you a lesson plan, and I'm going to tell you the steps of lesson planning through a real lesson plan. That's the Ministry of Education lesson plan. The first part is, let me do that, please. Okay. Definitely, it's very important to mention the subject, the name of the module, the grade level, the teacher's name, and the lesson name. And then you're going to highlight the competences that you're going to implement. Like, for example, whether you're going to work on literacy, which is always there in every lesson plan, numeracy, of course, problem solving. Will you ask them to do a research or not? Will you ask them to any critical thinking questions or not? So you're going to highlight that stuff. In the coming part comes the terminology and the vocabulary structure. In this area, you write all the new vocabulary they are going to be exposed to during the lesson. And then the main resources, whether you're going to use the textbook or maybe you're going to use something from the internet. So you have to mention that. If you have any supplementary resource, like maybe website or extra resource you're using, you're mentioning it here. The starter activity means the warm-up you're going to use. And by mentioning starter activity, there are two kinds of starter activities. It may be a warm-up, which is something related to the lesson, or the warm-up, which is something maybe not related, not related to the lesson, and the lead-in, which should be related to the lesson, or maybe recapping something related to the lesson. If you have a look here, the time frame is really very important. It's so important to mention the time for each activity you're going to do, so you do not be at a loss by the end of the session. The period is over and your session or your class or the lesson plan is not really over. The first objective here is to identify how to talk about quantities and qualities through pictures and text and context correctly. So here, the verb identify is something really measurable. I can measure whether the students are able to identify this or that, no or not. And I mentioned also the activity that I'm going to use to double check whether they can identify or not. If they really can identify, so they would be able to talk about the pictures in the context. And that's how I can identify and measure my objective. Modeling stage is something really important because modeling makes the students know what they are supposed to do. If you model in front of your students, they will be able to imitate you and do the same like you. Okay, the second objective here is practice speaking fluently about quantities using a prompt. So here also the objective is so specific. The teacher will give them a prompt and they will practice through this prompt. So it's not something too open. If I didn't mention that using a prompt, if I didn't mention that part, it will be too open, because how will you make them practice speaking? That's why your objective should be very specific by mentioning also the task or the activity you are going to do to reach this objective. See here, the time is mentioned in every single activity, which leads to a successful lesson plan and a successful lesson by the end of the class. And the last thing most of teachers ignore, which is the closure activity. Closure is very important because you are double checking whether your students got the lesson or no. And it's usually a summary. You ask someone to summarize. You can use the exit cards, for example, or you can do peer assessment. You can do any kind of activity to double check whether they understood and got the point of the lesson or no. Okay, and that was all for today about lesson planning. I hope you got a benefit from the session, and thank you so much for watching the video. Bye bye and have a nice day.